Join all the listeners who are listening right now ad-free by clicking subscribe on Apple Podcast, going to patreon.com/The Murder Diaries pod, or in Spotify, search The Murder Diaries ad-free. Today on The Murder Diaries, we're speaking with Akemi Taylor. Jordan Jefferson, Akemi's cousin, was shot and killed on March 30th, 2021 outside a home in Beloit, Wisconsin. He was a 33-year-old father of two who was known to be creative and skilled at a number of trades like jewelry design and making custom subwoofers. 2 years later, a suspect has been arrested and charged with Jordan's murder. But the Jefferson-King family wants the world to know what happened. In today's episode, again, we are joined by Jordan's cousin, Akemi. We were also going to be joined by Jordan's mother, Tina. So Akemi, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your relationship with your Aunt Tina.
I'm Akemi, and I am Jordan's second cousin. So the dynamic is my mom and his mom are cousins, and they grew up together. So then when they had children, then we grew up together. So, I mean, as a kid, I remember having sleepovers like every weekend with them, every birthday party we did together. We lived in Illinois, so it was like sledding and all those fun things that you can think of as a kid. I mean, sleepovers in general are just always fun with cousins. So we got into lots of mischief as kids. So yeah, I mean, like that's basically.
I know from a number of our email exchanges, you shared such a close relationship, and just hearing about all the sledding you guys would do and the sleepovers, it sounds like he was not only your cousin, but your friend. And so it obviously was a very dear relationship to you. In fact, you're the person who reached out to us initially about his case. And in one of the initial emails you wrote, "We finally got justice, but his story needs to be told." And as we were talking prior to recording, you were saying, yes, one person has been arrested, but there may still be people out there. And that's why the family is going to the public, going to podcasts, and reaching out to wide audiences to try and get this message out there.
Right. Basically, we know that there are other people involved, and the police said that in the very beginning, that when, they were investigating, that there were so many people they were interviewing and their stories were not matching. So it just didn't add up. So it kind of seemed like there was information that was left out that, and there were people that were not wanting to talk. And I mean, it was just like the story that I was told was that he was at someone's house and he got a phone call and went outside, and it was cold. So, I mean, it's in March in Illinois. He goes outside without a coat, but he puts a blanket over him to go outside. So it was almost like he went outside to go talk to someone he knew. He was expecting that. And then he went out there and turned his back. And that's when he was shot. No one knows who he went out to talk to. No one is telling anything, I guess you'll say. But he was at someone's house, and that person, ironically, moved out of the apartment the very next day. All I know is that Jordan was shot. He was running, and he ran to a neighbor's house, the first house that he could get to. And he just was banging on the door. And luckily, the person that opens the door was a nurse. She opens the door and he falls on her. And she's like trying to figure out what's happening. He's bleeding. She's like, she doesn't know what to do. She's, and she's like, I saw his eyes, and then his eyes closed, and I just knew they weren't opening back up. And she was like, I just felt like at least I was there with him. He wasn't by himself. I was there, but she was like, it was just, and she looked around. She was like, I heard a noise outside. It sounded like a mattress popped, like a air mattress popped. And she's like, and there was a blanket in the street, which was odd. And then she's like, this guy is falling on me as I'm opening my door to go out and smoke a cigarette. And, I talked to this lady at his his memorial service. Actually, she was there and she just wanted to talk to somebody from the family. And I happened to be the first one that showed up. And she's like, I just want to tell you that I was there and I'm so sorry. And she felt so bad. And I was like, don't feel bad. You were there with him. Somebody was there with him. He wasn't alone. You know what I mean? And it was just like, I feel like there's so many different stories that are going around. And for so long, it just felt like the police didn't care. The police weren't trying to investigate it. This was before I moved away, because I moved away actually 2.5 years ago to Arizona. And before I moved, it was like we weren't getting any answers from the police. So we were going to do like a march. We were going to do all these protests and stuff because they were trying not to help us with his case. They were not doing their job. And it became frustrating. And it was frustrating for my aunt because she's trying to grieve from this. And she's like, I just want justice for my child. And, and his siblings are all like, they're not doing anything. Nothing's moving. They're like, we know information and they're not taking the information and not doing anything with it. So it's like, that's where, I can understand where the function. And I'm sitting back because I'm like the cousin who's like, making t-shirts and making masks and stuff for us to, to sell and get his story out. I made car decals. Like I did anything that I could to have people seeing it. And it's crazy because like people will see someone's car and they'll see this decal that says like justice for Jordan, or they'll see the shirts and they'll see, different things. And they're like, they remember it. But some people have no idea what that means if they're not a part of this. And that's frustrating because it's like, we need this to be just as big as some of those cases that, you guys cover or that Dateline covers. Like it needs to be out there and we need to, I hear all you guys' stories and I'm like, some of them I've heard on multiple different, platforms. And it's like, I have never heard his on anywhere. And I feel like maybe that's what he needs, like all the other, victims that you guys talk to. And they're like, we just need his name out or her name out because then somebody else is going to hear it. And then maybe they're going to shed light to this case and they're going to do more.
We're totally honored to cover Jordan's case. There's 2 clarifying things that I wanted to hit here. One is this case took place in Beloit, Wisconsin, but I did hear Illinois mentioned, and I just wanted to make sure that we had the right state and the right place for, correct purposes. And then I would love to hear a little bit more about what is bringing out the belief that there was more than just one person involved.
So it happened in Beloit, Wisconsin, but most of the family is in Rockford, Illinois, which is very close to Beloit. So that's why, like, we grew up in that part. He didn't live in Beloit. He was visiting somebody in Beloit. Like, and there's conflicted stories. Like, I don't know if it was a girlfriend or something. He was at her house and then he got a call to go outside from somebody that he knew. And all I know is that they said that it was like a dark colored vehicle or van or something like that with the headlights off and everything, no license plate. And they thought that there was more than one person in the car. When his murderer was being sentenced, this is per my aunt, she tells me, and it's in the, I don't know like how much of you guys like researching and stuff, what you've seen, but when he was charged, my cousin gave the victim impact statement and he laughed. And then the judge said, for that, you're going to be sentenced for the rest of your natural life. And then, him and his mom cried for that. But he laughed when my cousin was giving the victim impact statement about his brother being murdered by him. They asked, why did you do this? Like, why? What was the reason why? And the reason that we keep getting was that he wouldn't give him a ride somewhere. Like, I guess he asked him to give him a ride to the store or something, and he declined. And so for that, you took his life. Like, I feel like it's so senseless. And, there was no other explanation for it. You know what I mean? Like, I always try to say this. I know no one's perfect. And I'm not saying that Jordan is perfect, but there's so many people that get murdered for nothing or something so dumb or something very, not that like being murdered is good. Like you should be murdered for anything, but I feel like people get murdered for way worse, way more. And this, like, he wasn't a bad person. He wasn't a bad kid. Like, I'm like, he wasn't like that person that was in and out of jail and in trouble all the time. It just floored me. Like when I got the call that he got murdered, I was so shocked. Like I was just like, no way, not Jordan. I could see so many other family members possibly before that, but that just like almost blindsided me. And, it was like surreal. I remember going to his funeral and telling my mom afterwards, I was like, people like grieve differently, right? But it was like how he was killed, like the bullet went from the back of his head out through his chin. And so they tried to cover that up. And it was horrible. And it was like, when you go to funerals, I mean, like we've all been to funerals, right? For people that we love. I go to this funeral and I'm like, I'm sad before I go and I'm gathering myself because I'm seeing everybody losing their, excuse my French, losing their outside. And I'm like, I don't want to be that person. So I go inside and I'm trying to be strong for everyone, but I couldn't even cry. And do you know why? Because I didn't recognize him. It didn't look like him. It wasn't the Jordan I grew up with. It wasn't my cousin that we had sleepovers and we were roasting each other or we were, doing pranks on each other. It wasn't that. You know what I mean? Like I couldn't even bring myself to that. He looked unlike himself. And it was just like afterwards, I could cry and I could look at pictures of him and I would be like, oh my God, like it was so real. But it was in that moment, I was just like, it felt like an outer body experience. Like it wasn't, this wasn't happening. This wasn't me. This couldn't be him. And it's just, I still feel like that to this day. Like I still want it to be like a dream. And when I see different reminders and stuff, I'm like, and his birthday, our birthdays were actually just like 2 weeks ago. His birthday's the day before mine. So it's like, his birthday comes and then I'm just like, there's another year that he's not here celebrating his birthday. And, it's just sad.
That would have been his third birthday after his passing.
Mm-hmm.
And it's yet another reminder of what a senseless act this all was. And you did bring up something I read in an article, multiple articles actually, where the offender, Damon Hanna, who was 26 years old when he committed the crime, did laugh. And
yep.
I was glad to see that the judge took that and made sure that he was punished for that as well, because it's wild to think that someone would take a life and then laugh about it in the face of the grieving family. It's honestly, I can't think of anything more evil than that.
Yeah, it's like evil, and it's like you have no remorse, and and then now you have remorse. You're crying, and your mom's crying because you're going to be in prison for the rest of your life.
He was only upset because he was punished. And I just want to, for our listeners to know, he was sentenced to life in prison on first-degree murder charges. But we believe that there are other people involved. As you mentioned earlier, people aren't talking. And that's why we're here to get as much information out about the case, about Jordan as possible. And I don't want to skip too far ahead in the story without covering who Jordan was as a person. We know that he was a father. He had a fiance. He obviously has a very loving family, close-knit family.
He's got 2 sons, and yeah, he did have a fiance. But yeah, he's 2 sons, and it was kind of sad to watch them too at the funeral because one of his sons, I believe when Jordan passed, was only like 4 or 5. And he really didn't, I mean, obviously little kids, they don't, understand it fully at that point. And I really don't think that they really understood what was going on. And it's like, you don't know how anyone's going to react to this. And it's like, not that I was expecting them to be like, boohoo crying and stuff like the whole entire time. You could kind of tell that they just maybe thought he was sleeping or something. Because I want to say the one was like, if he was 4, the other one was like 6 or 7. Like they're just like a couple years apart. But yeah, they definitely like, he's very close with them, very good dad. I could remember him bringing his kids over to like my mom's for Christmas and, different times, and us just like admiring each other as like parents. And, because we were these kids that grew up together and, now we have kids and, wanting our kids to, to have the same that, that we had. And, it's like I mentioned in the email to you, when you grow up, you start kind of like branching off into your own thing. And sometimes you lose like all that contact with all those people, and you don't get to hang out with people as much as you want to. And, you don't get that. And it's like, that's one thing that I always regretted, is that our kids didn't get to be how we were. Our kids didn't get to have that cousin relationship, that, that escape to go over and hang out on the weekend or holiday breaks and stuff like that. I mean, like it was a big deal. Jordan used to come over, and so like I said, there was like 5 of them. So there was one girl, she's a couple of years older than me, and then Jordan, and then 2 of the other cousins. I mean, like they're like the ages are kind of scattered, so not all of them got to come over at all times because some were younger, so they didn't. My mom was like, I'm not watching all of these kids. But, the ones that were like of age, we all hung out. And I have a brother that's a year younger than me. So that was like, he was really close with Jordan too. And I mean, he let Jordan do work for him when Jordan was like doing like handyman work and stuff. My brother was actually in Arizona, but he owned a property in Illinois, and he let Jordan do a lot of the work for him because he wasn't in the States. So Jordan got to do a lot of the work in his apartment building. And I mean, it was because he trusted Jordan. That was his cousin. We grew up with him. He knew he was a good hard worker. So, I mean, like that kind of shows like the relationship, like us as growing up, we still wanted to be, in each other's lives and use each other for whatever, resources that we could. Like that's what you're supposed to do as a family, right?
Yeah, stick together and help each other out. It makes going through life a lot easier. I do have a question about the kids now. Since Jordan's passing, are you guys still able to see them at all? Are they still able to interact with his side of the family, or are they with their mom?
Yeah, so I haven't seen them since I moved, but I know that his kids are a part of Jordan's mom's life and Jordan's siblings. So they all kind of have communication with the mom of the kids. So she's pretty close with our family. We all communicate with each other. She doesn't keep them from, and they come, I think they're currently in Chicago. So, I mean, whenever they come to Rockford, they visit like his gravesite and they visit like his side of the family. So yeah, that's been a thing. And I'm thinking about it. So one of his brothers, you'll have to look this up. I can try to find his little video. So one of his brothers is a rapper. Okay. So his little rapper name is Lil Ratchet. But he did a song for Jordan and he made a music video and we were in it. And he's like, you can see like there's a video of like they're like boxing and stuff. Like so you can see like Jordan, him like playing in the front yard, like boxing. But then you see like my kids are in it, I'm in it, and we have all our t-shirts that we got made. Like I made some and then some other person made. We made posters and we did it at like a park and stuff. It was really cool. It turned out really good. But he did this song and like he played the song at the funeral and stuff. Like the song is called Pain in My, but he's like, he was really torn up about it because that was his older brother. He's the youngest and that was his older brother. And, he lost his brother. And when you hear the unedited version, you'd be like, but he had to get his stuff out, you know. Everyone expresses themselves differently, and he did it through a song and made a music video. And that I literally just thought about it just now. Like, I don't know why I didn't.
It sounds like such a touching tribute. We're definitely going to be looking for that video. And if we can't find it, we're going to have you send it to us because we're going to put it on.
We'll link it.
Yeah, we're going to link it in the show notes for this episode because it would be nice for our listeners to get a sense of his community that he had that rallied around him in life, but also in death. And this celebration of his life.
It was really important to do it. And yeah. It was a big deal. Like I felt like that was good that he did that. He got that out there and he showed his tribute to his brother. And
absolutely. And I feel like this is the perfect segue because something that all three of us were talking about prior to recording was when we were trying to figure out if Jordan's mom, Tina, was going to be able to join us. And we decided that, you know, the family had given you like the okay to go ahead and speak with us on their behalf was how far murders and missing people and the people we cover, how far their tragedies reach. It's not just them that's affected. It's not just their immediate family. It goes for generations. I mean, you're talking about you're his second cousin. I mean, you guys grew up like first cousins, and then you have your children who would be, I think, third cousins to each other. And that's multiple generations, even your parents, your mom and his mom, first cousins. It's just generation after generation. That's three of them have been affected by what happened to Jordan. And not even just his family, but the community as well has seen the ripple effect of this. And that's why it is so important to keep sharing these stories, especially the ones that don't get the attention that they deserve.
Yep. It's crazy because like my kids, they didn't know a whole lot about him or what happened. And it was like me making these shirts to not forget and them wearing them. And then like years later, when they're explaining to people like why they're wearing them, who this is, and that it's a big deal. It's important. And people are like, oh man, that's really cool that you're doing that. You're wearing that. It's like, yeah, it's sad that we have to do this. But at the same time, it's like, you know, I feel like how else can I honor him? You know, it was like, I started a thing on Facebook when he first passed. Like I was trying to like get donations to like plant a tree or something. Like I felt like I needed to do something, right? And it's like, I feel like if something bad happened to me, I would want someone to care and I would want someone to do all these things for me. And I feel like as much as I'm doing for him, I feel like he would do for me. And, you know, and that's like at a cousin standpoint, that's not even like a brother, sister, or, you know, something like that. And it's just like, I wish that more people would have helped support me to do what I was trying to do. It's like, I'm still trying to like raise money. And like, that's why I was making shirts. That's why I was making masks. That's why I was, you know, doing all these different things like, you know, hey, let's raise this money. Let's get a tree planted, you know? And I don't know why it went the way that it went, but I mean, I'm still working on it, girls. I'm still working on it. Okay. We're going to get a tree planted eventually. You know, I want something to be there to not have to be, cause you know, everyone's not like a gravesite person. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, I feel like a tree is like a better memorial than like having to go to a cemetery. Cemeteries are depressing. Like, I don't want to go there and see, you know what I mean? Like, and the vibe is like, it's all these dead people here, you know? Like, I want this to be like a nice, beautiful tree and like a place that you can just come and just like relax and just, you know, think of Jordan, think of happy thoughts. Like, I don't want to be thinking depressing thoughts when I go to the cemetery.
In your perfect world, the tree is planted. Where is it?
The tree is planted in a perfect world. It's in where we grew up. It's in Rockford, Illinois. It's in somewhere there's beautiful scenery. There's, you know, like it's either the river or, you know, there's somewhere where it's beautiful sunsets and, you know, just somewhere nice. I mean, like I wouldn't have it planted somewhere out by me because none of his family could enjoy it but me. I would want it somewhere where all his family, his children could go and see it and, just honor him, have a little plaque with his picture or something. And, just this is in memory of him. And, that's in a perfect world. That's what I would like. And like I said, it's like, even if I have to do it on my own, by myself, I'll do it. But that is like on the bucket list for me. Like I have to do that. That's one thing I have to do for him.
One thing to note for our listeners is that it took a year for someone to finally be arrested. Not that we want to keep bringing it back to the offender, but I just want to give the full picture. And then it took more time after that. I think another year to in like 2022, maybe early 2023 for the trial and the sentencing.
Yeah, I was going to say, I know he was sentenced just a few months ago, actually. So maybe like summer of 2023. It took that long. And it's like, I guess I never understand that whole process, why it takes so long to, to do all the different things. But yeah, I just know she sent me. So my aunt, she's a Facebook person, right? So she keeps me in the loop on a lot of stuff. And she sends me like if I go skim through my messenger, I have a picture of the murderer and I have a picture of like other people that she thinks are like, connected. But then she sends me all the different like articles and stuff like that. And, that's how I found out, because she was there, for the sentencing and I wasn't. So she, as soon as, it was done, she's like, we got him and da da da. And she was like, this, she's like, this was laughing at the sentencing. And I'm like, her's the mom. She's like pissed. Right. And it's like me, I'm upset too, but she's feeling it in a different way. Right. Because this is her baby. And, it's like, and then his dad, like, she thinks his dad passed from like heartbreak because he died like not too long after. And, and she's heartbroken from that because of their relationship, their friendship. And so, I mean, I just feel like the time that it takes to get these things solved is ridiculous. But and then like, now we're thinking there's other people, and like, how long is that gonna, like, if they catch someone, how long is that gonna take for them to get, the justice to be brought to them?
That's something I want to ask about too. Now that this Damon Hannah has been arrested, sentenced, and is in prison, is the case technically closed according to the police? Or are they actively looking for these additional offenders that they believe are out there? Or is that what you guys are trying to bring awareness so that it's reopened?
So I'm not sure that it's completely closed. From hearing different people in the family, it's not like it's an active like investigation still. And I could be wrong, but I think she sent me a video, and I can check like later to get back to you guys. But I think she sent me a press conference that was with the police and all that stuff when he was arrested, and they were saying that it was still an open investigation, that there were still other offenders that they were following up on leads and evidence. So I don't think that it's completely closed, because I think the police do think that there are other connections to it. So, but that's as far as it's went. You know what I mean? Like, we haven't heard any good leads. And I feel like my aunt, I don't know where she gets her information from, but she feels like she knows who's involved, and like she's going to take it into her own hands. And I'm like, Auntina, chill out. Okay. Calm down. And I'm with her. Like, I'm all about the crime stories, and I'm all about all that stuff. And I get it. I know where she's at. She just wants to get it done. But I'm like, you can't be like that person. Like, you can't, it's not going to help anything. We're not going to bring Jordan back. And that's a hard pill to swallow. And it's a hard pill to make her swallow, because, she feels like maybe in doing all this, like, she's going to have him back. And it's like, it's just hard to watch. Like, it's been hard to watch her. It's been hard to watch his siblings. I take a backseat on it because, like, I'm his cousin, right? But them, I can imagine if I lost my brother in such a senseless way, and her losing her second born in such a senseless way. Like, it's just, It's terrible. Terrible.
How can our listeners support this quest for justice for Jordan, Jordan's tree, and Jordan's family?
So I have on Facebook, I've got like a page, and it's just Justice for Jordan. But I just, as far as like, support for the family, if people know anything, I just feel like just reach out to like the Beloit Police Department, and just it's time to start talking and stop keeping all these secrets. If you know information, if you know who did something, even if it's like a little thing, sometimes people feel like little things are nothing and they won't help, and a lot of times it's like those little things put those pieces to the puzzle together, and then they get something solved. So I just feel like that's the biggest thing, is just like reaching out, and like I said, if you know anything, just say something. Oh, she's here.
It says Tina King entered the waiting room.
Yep.
Okay. It says her audio is connecting.
Woo! We're connected. Hi, Tina. Can you hear us?
Yes, I can. And did I just see my beautiful niece?
You sure do. She's done such a great job today.
Hey, honey.
Hey, how are you?
I'm trying not to cry.
Okay, don't cry.
I haven't seen her in so long.
She hasn't seen me in like 2.5 years.
Oh.
She just sees pictures and stuff on Facebook, but she hasn't seen me, so it's been a while.
I think Facebook now has I know Instagram has video chats. Maybe hook her up with an Instagram so you guys can video chat.
Well, Tina, now you know how to work Zoom, so you could talk to Akemi over Zoom too, maybe sometime.
That's true.
Yeah.
Your niece did such a wonderful job speaking to the character of who Jordan was, what he was like as a person. And we covered a lot of it, but we really want to give you a minute to make a statement as the mother of Jordan about anything you want to say, whether that's about him as a person, about the case, your continued search for justice, or all of the above. So the floor is yours.
Well, for starters, it bothers me when I hear people say, "Oh, you finally got justice for Jordan." There can never be an amount of justice for Jordan. Jordan was definitely in a class all by himself. My kids grew up partially in the area where Akemi's mom and myself, where we grew up. And so as Jordan and two of his other siblings, they grew up in the same area where Akemi's mom and where I grew up. And back when we were coming along, obviously it was nothing like how it is now. Nowhere near how it is now. Jordan, I am so glad that Jordan was the type that he could read through people. I kind of think that that's where Jordan and Akemi ended up being like favorite cousins to each other. Even though there was a big age difference there, Jordan loved his cousin Akemi. He called her Akemi, Kermit, like Kermit the Frog off of Sesame Street. And, that was just one of his little pet names that he had for Akemi. My Kermit the Frog, Akemi. But
I told you guys he was always like cracking jokes and stuff.
Always. You never, ever, ever saw him in a cranky mood. And he was always trying to do his best to help somebody else. And I have to say that was one of the things that he did get from me. I was forever trying to help somebody else. Jordan and his other two siblings were coming along. For whatever reason, I don't even know why, I had my hands full with 3 kids of my own. I ended up taking in a lot of the kids from the area where we grew up. And the reason being is because I could look at some of the other kids and I knew this kid's not eating. In fact, my sister-in-law, Dixie, which is Kimi's grandmother, she had come over to the gas station one day and there was these kids and they actually earned the name of Bebe Kids. I don't know if you ever saw the cartoon, but it was a cartoon called Bebe Kids. And nobody ever wanted to watch these Bebe Kids because they were just horrible. And nobody ever wanted to watch them because they were just so bad. Well, when my sister-in-law Dee, and I don't like calling her my sister-in-law because she was like a second mother to me. She had gone over to the gas station, and I had no idea this had even occurred until she told me. And she says, this little kid was kind of tugging on her shirt. And he said, well, ma'am, can I pump your gas? And you can give me money so that I can get food for my sister and my brother. And so when Dee looked and she saw the kid, she saw that he was unkept. And looking at him, she said that she knew that he was in need of a hot meal. She knew that whatever he was going to get with that money from the gas station, it was nothing more than a snack, like some chips or a soda or a popsicle. She gave the kid the money and told him that he didn't have to pump her gas. At any rate, with that being said, I always tried to instill in my kids, you can have a harder life than you think you have a hard life now, only because you're being made to do your chores. You're being made to do your homework. You're being made to come in the house because it's 7:30, where some of these kids, they don't have anybody over them to teach them right from wrong. And that's not good. That's not good at all. These kids' mom, she was just so gone on drugs. She didn't know if her kids were eating. She didn't care. The only thing she cared about was getting her hands on the drugs. But that night, I said all of that to say this. That night that my son was murdered, Jordan knew that these guys were up to no good. The first guy, Jordan met him at his stepdad's house. And this guy stayed across the street from Jordan's stepdad. And his name is now Mr. was the one that set all of this up. He set it all up. He didn't have the heart. He didn't have the guts. He didn't have what it took that he was trying to get done. He wanted Jordan basically dead because he wanted what he saw Jordan with. Jordan had just purchased a new car. He paid for the car in cash. Jordan worked his butt off to get that car. Nobody just gave it to him or handed him a title and some keys. He worked for that. He worked for it, and he worked hard to get it. Shooting somebody or getting them away from their house so that we can have them jumped or have something done to them so we can take whatever they have from them and retrieve it for ourselves. That's not how my niece or myself, that's not how we raised our kids. We told them about the hard knocks in life that we went through.
If we bring it back a little bit to Jordan, can you think of like 3 words to describe your son, Jordan?
Funny, loving, and goofy.
I love those words. And it definitely fits in with the story about him giving Akemi a ton of nicknames and a few of the other things we've heard about him. Is there anything that you'd like to tell our listeners about your continued pursuit of justice before we end today?
Well, I just feel like that justice, no matter how it looks on the outside, people think that, oh, well, she got justice for her son. No, I didn't. We did not. There are still people that need to be brought to justice. And I've reached out to the Beloit Police Department more than once. I've not received any return phone calls from, like, the police chief. I've called him since the start of this investigation, which would be 3 years now. Now, I am a paralegal, and I do know that there's not any time on a murder case. You know, a person can be brought to justice. It could be 50 years from now. That person can still be brought to justice on a murder charge. And there's still people that are out there that need to be brought to justice on Jordan's murder case. I've reached out continuously to the Beloit Police Department and to no avail. Not even a phone call from the police chief. There's a lot of things that need to be addressed that has not been addressed accordingly.
So it sounds to me our call to action to our listeners is to get loud about Jordan's case. The more people talking about it, the more people sharing this interview, the more people sharing his photo, the more people it's going to reach. And hopefully it's going to get the attention of the Beloit Police Department, who obviously are stonewalling you guys with not even returning any phone calls. Akemi did mention that you guys have a Facebook page. We're going to link that. And she may be putting together a GoFundMe for a tree in Jordan's honor.
I'm currently doing it.
All right. Oh, man, you were on top of these things. I love it.
I'm just multitasking.
She's just a little chip off of her mom's block.
Oh.
Seriously, Akemi is so very, very smart. She's smart. She's always on the go. She always has her stuff together. And her mother was the same way, and she's still like that now. She doesn't slow down. Her battery doesn't need to be recharged. She just goes and goes.
Make sure you follow us on all of our socials at the Murder Diaries Pod. And until then, stay safe. Bye.
Are you intrigued by mysteries of the unknown? Then tune in to the Decoding the Unknown podcast. Join me as we uncover the secrets of the world's most perplexing enigmas, from the chilling legend of Spring-Heeled Jack to the truth behind Mary Magdalene and Jesus. We're going to delve into the most bizarre stories, such as the Belle Island boom and the phantom settlements on Google Maps that don't actually exist and why they're there. We'll leave no stone unturned as we unravel the mysteries that baffle the world. Don't miss out on the intrigue and the knowledge that Decoding the Unknown has to offer. Subscribe now. And let's start decoding the unknown.